We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they can send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck. No. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck! The man makes you know he can't fucking breathe! The man makes you know We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck. No. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, show where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. Today, as like most days, I have got a glorious panel here with me to break down all the shit-talking and shenanigans, the fight announcements and fuckery that has all trickled out the MMA pipeline since we saw you wonderful folks last. Before we get into all that fun and fuckery, first off, gentlemen, how you doing over there?
I'm just happy to be here.
Feel the same because I'm not happy with the fights we're getting this weekend, especially with the added danger that our whole hobby might get canceled if some cartel pulls up and fucking shoots the guys fighting in the octagon.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I'm just ready for some fights, but yeah, the added cartel threat doesn't exactly thrill me.
Yep, yeah, I absolutely agree. I agree completely. There is some crazy shit to be talked about for this weekend for sure. So, that being said, let's jump right into it. We are going to kick things off here the way that we like to, with a little bit of news and recent events, fight announcements, fight cancellations, official rumor confirmations and denials, all kinds of fun, relevant shit in the fight world we feel you guys need to be aware of. Now, I will say this week we do only have one little thing we have to tie back to last week with, and that was actually fucking sweat off the brow close call. There was only one person on all of last week's card that missed weight, and they actually didn't miss weight. They just missed the initial weigh-in. For the third consecutive fight in a row, Phil Rowe himself stepped on the scale fucking heavy. He initially weighed in at 173 pounds for his welterweight fight. Luckily, because he made it in time, he got his additional hour, went back, cut that weight, came back in at 170.5, and the fight proceeded as regular, where he then got the dog shit walked out of him by Jean-Paul Bosniani. So, it is what it is, but to his credit, he did fix this one. He's missed the last two in a row and then showed up heavy for his third fight in a row, but he did manage to get this one back under the regulation just in time to get his ass beat. So there was that. Hopefully he's got whatever the fuck has been going on in his training camp dialed in so he doesn't have to do that anymore, because he's not really a terrible fighter, but there's only so many times you can miss weight in a row, and then whatever you're capable of doesn't fucking matter anymore. Aspen lad. Sorry, some bullshit caught in my throat there. That being said, we did get a fucking litany of interesting fight announcements this week. A bunch of main events have got officially confirmed here, straight from the horse's mouth. So we're going to kick things off first. Just a couple weeks from now, back over to the quote-unquote Meta Apex for another fight night. April 4th will now officially be headlined by Manny Moicano versus Chris Duncan. An interesting matchup. I'm not 100% certain it's really main event worthy, but if nothing else, Moicano is going to make the build up to that fight worth watching unto itself. So we'll see how that turns out. Over on the weird cousin side of things in the MMA world, we got word this week that Mohammed Usman is officially injured and out of the 8-man heavyweight tournament kicking off in April for Game Bread FC. But interestingly enough, as one ex-UFC fighter gets injured and is out of that tournament, another ex-UFC fighter decides to step in and be his replacement. Thiago Santos has decided to throw his hat in the ring and step in for that Game Bread $500,000 heavyweight tournament that they are starting on April 8th, I believe. That being said, back over in the semi-normal side of things here for the UFC, we got a couple real interesting ones here. The first one, we kind of suspected that this one was coming. The rumors about it had been spreading far and wide quickly after the shenanigans that came loose, but we did get official confirmation this week, added to that Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira UFC 327 card, April 11th down in Miami. Joshua Van will now officially be making his first defense of the flyweight belt against Tatsuro Taira while we wait for the apparently not permanently injured previous belt holder to get himself back into fighting shape and then presumptuously challenge the winner of this fight. But Van versus Taira is a fight that a lot of people have been looking for a long time. Now that it's going to be for the belt, there's that much more pressure. So I'm kind of stoked to see how that one plays out, and then we can take things from there. That being said, we got a double pair here for April 18th was formerly going to be UFC Ottawa. They have now confirmed now it is actually going to be UFC Winnipeg. Of course, the at-home staple, Jasmine Jasdovicius, will be fighting on that card, and she will be taking on Karine Silva. Pretty interesting matchup here. Not mad at that at all. The one that kind of leaves me scratching a little bit is that they then confirmed the main event for the Winnipeg show will be Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not a bad fight, and Mike Malott, much like Jasmine Jasdovicius, fights on pretty much every card the UFC brings to Canada. But again, much like the Moicano fight that I mentioned a little while ago, I'm not 100% certain if that's a main event caliber fight. Now, obviously, as we get a little closer and we get a little more buildup, we'll see about that one just like we will the Moicano fight. I'm just saying from right now, the main events that they've been dropping have been leaving a little bit to be desired. And continuing with that fucking trend, the other one that they announced this week was the following week, April 25th, when we will be back once again in the UFC meta apex, I say with air quotes, for the main event being Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. Again, not a terrible fight. The fight obviously makes sense, but again, as a main event, we are officially starting the Paramount Plus era with some fucking weak cards, to say the least. So we'll see how these stack up as we get a little closer, though. To the befuddlement of myself and pretty much everyone else who's been paying attention for the last couple of years, we got the official announcement this week that the GFL has officially gotten their shit together, allegedly enough that they are going to make another run at this thing. And to try and help convince folks that they are legitimate this time, they decided to create a fighter wellness board and brought on a whole bunch of big names, basically like a third of the originally listed roster, plus Mike Goldberg, Hector Lombard, and a couple of other folks who have done some fighting and commentary, but aren't necessarily still active fighters. It's a very strange conglomeration of a board, but they said that they have announcements for the 2026 season. Yes, season, they said, of the GFL will be announced coming soon. So, as if that belly flop of a fucking quote unquote live draft that they put on last year wasn't bad enough, they have sullied their horse back up to the fucking gates and they are going to try and run this one more time. So I have almost no faith whatsoever that this will get any further than conversations and some social media posts, but we will see as we get a little closer to their quote unquote soon announcement to see what they've got for 2026. That being said, last one I have got this week, we talk about it all the time, and I'm going to say it again. I will continue to say it, so if it bothers you, you might as well just mute me for a couple of minutes here, but it is always, always, always better, in my opinion, to see a fighter decide to hang their gloves up of their own choosing than to have that decision made for them. We will always applaud a fighter, regardless of the circumstances, for deciding to call an end to their career where they are still able to legibly sign their own name and tie their own fucking shoes than the alternative. This week, we got the official retirement from the UFC and from MMA of AJ Cunningham at the age of 31. AJ leaves with a pro record of 11-5, unfortunately 0-2 in the UFC, but we found out that AJ Cunningham has permanently ruptured a disc in his back and is right now fighting to not be permanently paralyzed, let alone train, and is not going to try and focus on that and then getting back to being a fighter, which I abso-fucking-lutely agree with and applaud. But this is one of those weird times where we've got a guy who's young and could potentially recover from this and get back to it, who has consciously made the choice to step away from the sport because his life and his health is more fucking important. So while it is unfortunate to see somebody so young and literally in the prime of their career stepping away, this is again one of those situations where I would always rather see a fighter make the choice of their own to step away than have that choice made for them. So while we may not get to see AJ Cunningham in the cage again, I would absolutely like to see him continue on having a life. And if this is the choice that needs making for that to happen, then c'est la vie, sir. Golf clap for your time, and we appreciate the effort. Go take care of life because life comes first. That being said, that's what I have got for news this week. Any of you gentlemen have anything that I might have missed? Okay, well, in that case, we will just move things right the fuck on along here. So, at this point, if you've been watching combat sports as long as some of us have been watching combat sports, you start to learn what you like to watch and when it comes on and how to watch it, and you start to develop your patterns, and you inevitably sometimes start to lose the forest for the trees, metaphorically. Well, luckily for us here on the show, we've got ourselves a young person who's out there diligently and delicately fingering the pulse of the MMA world to help keep us abreast of all the names that are going to be big names before they are big names in a little segment that we like to call Slows, Cans, and Contenders.
Appreciate you, brother. So this one is not much different than last week. Maybe a little worse than last week. Majority of the prelims, we gotta just be honest. They're those again contractual obligation fights or newcomers. They tried to get a lot of the South Americans on this card to try to represent. Obviously, they're going to Mexico here. And we mentioned at the very beginning it's not looking like the greatest idea now. Still going ahead on with it. And hopefully everything goes smooth. We've had this situation before in Brazil too, but things have gone smooth. You can only hope that as a fan. But fights wise, it's just a bunch of I don't know what. We've got a few fights that may be good on this one. Last weekend, we felt the same a little bit, and we were honest about it. And it turned out better than we expected. The main card actually turned out to be pretty fucking badass. That was the best fight night of the year so far. Like, when you think about main card, not top to bottom, whole card, but main card, that was the best main card we've had. That was pretty fun. Stuff that's on the fence here, the contenders, Shirez. I think this guy, he goes out there and gets into exciting fights. Will he be a true contender? I have no confidence in that whatsoever. He's on the fence here. He's being a can because is he going to be able to stay in situations that he can stay in fun fights? We'll see. Can he stay in the UFC? We'll see. But the dude has had some nice victories. He's 4-2 so far. He's won a couple by finish in his last few. Excited to see how that one turns out. You got the kid Wesley Schultz. So I'm on the fence about him. He's got some potential, but at the same time, I don't know. We'll see if he can actually break out here in his UFC debut. He lost to Mansour Abdul Malik on the Contender Series, so Malik has looked decent since he came in the UFC. That kid's got some potential. We'll see how this young kid can do. But he's on the fence for me. And then Zell Huber. And Zell Huber is still pretty young, too. The kid has got some striking talent, some good ability. He's got hometown fight here that he might put on a good performance. Losing to guys like Bobby Green, though, is not the greatest. He's had some rough bounce backs. So he's on the fence of whether he's a can or still young and can build back, right? So just throw those out there. The true cans we want to shine a big light on, I think, would be Jose Medina. That's a big one. I don't understand how this guy is still in the UFC after having 3 fights now, and he hasn't won a single one of them. He lost a couple of them by first round finish. Well, they need somebody to get knocked out again or something of the sort, right? I got to touch on this fight between these two guys. You maybe could put it on the fence. Maybe one of you guys would have put this one on the fence, but the Christian Quinones and Chris Matino fight. This is a feel good story because of the Matino fight he had against Sean O'Malley. The dude's tough as nails, but he's not a good fighter. It's just the truth. He's another one of those punching bag kind of guys. And as a human being, you want to root for him. Oh, the kid had that great fight against Sean O'Malley where Sean just couldn't put him away no matter what. He's just walking forward, charging at him still like a fucking zombie. That was fun. And then he gets a second chance and gets knocked the fuck out by Malcolm last year. They're giving him a third chance now. And you like to believe that, right? Third time's the charm. I don't think so. But at the same fucking time, Christian Quinones isn't fucking good. So he's a Mexican. He's got the Mexican crowd behind him. Is he going to show up? Is he going to perform well? I don't fucking have a good answer to any of those questions. So I'm just going to throw that fight in the trash because, in all honesty, Martino shouldn't have got this third chance. It's just a feel-good story. And Quinones maybe shouldn't be in the UFC either. And I also think he's had a layoff, too. I can't remember when he last fought. He's lost his last couple fights. I remember I wrote that down. To older guys that I would consider cans, he won his debut a while ago. It was October 2021 when he was on the fucking Contender Series. So this guy,
2 years, Quinones has had a layoff for 2 years. He
yeah,
hasn't
I
fought
know
since
it.
February of 24.
Yeah, it's been a while because I'm sitting here reading through my notes. It's like this dude's been it's been 5 years since he came out of the Contender Series, with 3 fucking fights in the UFC. Yeah, that fight, just gotta throw that in the trash. And then the ladies fight, Macy Chiasson, Aileen Perez. I enjoy watching her shake her ass, but that's the only thing I enjoy when it comes to Miss Perez. And Macy Chiasson doesn't bring me a damn bit of entertainment, never has. Just being completely honest. Sean Strickland doesn't say a lot of things that make sense, but that was the one thing we can't deny. We all know women's sports aren't that. And I'm not trying to be sexist here. They're just not as entertaining. And women's fighting has been great that it existed and has existed, and we root for them. We always wish that the fights turn out good. But we're going to be honest when we got to be honest, and this one is probably either going to be 15 minutes of Aileen Perez laying on Macy Chiasson, or Macy somehow snags up a lucky submission. Because I do feel like Macy's got the better experience and maybe slightly a better fighter. Nope, nope. This is not one of those. We've seen plenty of good. We'll also make that correction too. Sean Strickland is kind of right, and women's fights and women's sports aren't the greatest thing to watch. But we've seen amazing women's fights. God damn it, on a regular basis. But as a whole, women's fighting has its place, and you got to respect the fucking ladies. But yeah, we've had some amazing ones. We just don't get them on a regular basis. Maybe 1, 2 a year. And that sucks. This is not going to be one of those. The good moments, and I'll leave it to you boys. You got a couple of young kids. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do. I did throw Santiago Luna on here just because 14-1 and some knockout potential. We'll see what the kid can do in his debut. You got one of DC's kids, Emanol Rodriguez. He lost on the Ultimate Fighter last year, but the kid is young. He's shown that he got better, with his UFC debut. He's damn good with the striking, and he's been working with DC a lot to work on the wrestling and the grappling. So you get the overall aspect. We might have a nice little fun flyweight contender cracking in the UFC. So those are the shining lights, those little youngins. And then you got David Martinez. This is his true opportunity to become a contender. I think he's going to beat Cheeto. Cheeto, I love him to death. The dude is another tough as nails fighter, but he fights so slow. He doesn't go out. I can't remember a time where we've seen him ever like just balls to the wall, like really get into the dog fights, compared to like he's had those lucky moments like against Frankie Edgar or Tom Cruise where he does find the lucky shot or the nice shot that he's always looking for, and he gets the knockout. I'd like to see Cheeto bounce back, but I'm going to root for the Martinez here, and especially having the Mexican crowd behind him. He gets that win. He's probably top 10 in the bantamweight division right then and there. He's going to get some fun fights after. And you got the Moreno and Kavanaugh fight. That's the only other shining light that we can look at. Obviously, you love Brandon Moreno. Them giving him another fight in Mexico is badass. Crowd's going to go insane if Brandon gets the fight. We're going to have a good time. I think he's going to, or wins the fight. I think he's going to win because Lonier is just too inexperienced. He lost to Charles Johnson, and I love me some Charles Johnson. I love all the Missouri guys and root for him, but Charles Johnson's a mid-level fighter, and Lonier's young, but taking that loss, it's not great. And Brandon is so much better. He just levels better. Even with the striking, he's got hands. He can put Lonier on his ass just like Charles Johnson did. And this kid also coming in on the short notice fight. It's supposed to be Almabayev. Cool for Lonier Kavanaugh getting this opportunity. It's that miracle moment, right? We just saw the boys this past week get the gold for the first time since 1980, the hockey team. Can Lonier Kavanaugh have his own miracle moment? As the dude from the damn movie says, this is your opportunity. What are you going to make out of it? That's the best thing you can say. But I think the fight will be exciting. If the kid definitely pushes the pace and challenges Brandon. It'll be fun to see in general. I think he's young and he can still grow, but I definitely think he's going to get big brothered in this one. But that's still going to be fun to see. Sure, you boys will agree most of it's trash, but we'll see what you got to say.
I'll hit it. Look, to be honest, last week's and this week's are kind of a horse apiece to me. But here, let me shine the turd just a wee bit. At least we have something to watch. To be fair, it's something. On the other side of that coin, do I kind of wish that they would go back to the old moniker of only doing like maybe 1 or 2 shows a month max? Yeah. Not for not enjoying myself when we get to come in here and talk about all this, but the quality of cards was much better. Unfortunately, this one is lacking a little bit. I mean, starting off the card, you got what looks like a cross between Lorenzo Lamas and Fabio, and Wes Schultz getting the fucking nod to start in there. There might even be a wee bit of Andrei Arlovsky mixed into that DNA somewhere. And I mean, you're getting guys that are so wet behind the ears, their mother probably still has the stitch. If you don't understand that reference, you might not be a parent, and that's okay. Then looking at what you got, Eric Silva and Francis Marshall. Eric Silva has not done anything in the UFC at all yet. He's had 2 fights in the last 4 years and lost both of them. You got a young guy in Francis Marshall who has had a bit more success and stayed a lot more active. So I think, unfortunately, I hate to say it, that is one of those contractual obligation fights. We're like, hey, we have to offer you a fight. You can take it, you can not. The scariest thing for all of these guys is that there's still, according to the US, it's a level 3 travel alert on there. They're saying, don't be there, reconsider going. All of these fighters are already there. I'm not expecting them to reconsider because it's their job for 1, and 2, they're fucking fighters. They go into every place knowing that they might end up dead, not because of some weird cartel leader, but there is the possibility that they could go out in a body bag. Generally, we're never going to see that, hopefully, but strange things happen. I mean, we've seen it even in boxing where somebody never leaves or they might leave the ring alive, but don't get home alive. So, I mean, it's a scary thing. And another one of we must keep Mexico on the card. Regina Turin and Ernesta, I'm not even going to try to say that Lithuanian last name because I will fucking martyr it. That's another contractual obligation. Keep the Mexico fans happy. Anything in that Latin America area. Douglas Silva de Andrade. How fucking old is he now? Like, I mean, he's been around for a long fucking time, and he's always been, in my eyes, a journeyman at best. And that's not to say I don't appreciate the road you took to get to the UFC, because look, if you got here, you made the big show. It's kind of like making the bigs in the MLB. Yeah, you
Tapology.
might get there, but most people don't remember it.
Tapology says that he's 40, but Tapology also says that Yoel Romero is 42. So
yeah, take that with a grain of salt. We all know Yoel Romero is probably like 50 and on those special Cuban steroids. But
Yoel Romero's been 42 for 23 years.
For 42 years. And I mean, I look at fights like that and I go, yeah, we're keeping Latin America happy because he's getting to fight a Colombian. What a better way than to have a Brazilian fight a Colombian right now. I'm just saying, you got cartel problems, bring in the Colombians. Seems like the honest fix. And moving along, this is another one that I hate to dump on because everybody likes a feel-good story, and Chris Matinho getting that fucking extra shot. Once he got that extra shot, though, and we realized it just wasn't there, we gotta let it go. If you love it, you gotta let it go. We all love that feel-good story of, yeah, you came in there and held your own with fucking Sugar Sean, but you got your second chance. This is an unnecessary roll of the dice, is what I'll call this. We're guaranteed to crap out here. For those of you who don't know what crapping out is, that is a form of gambling where you're rolling dice. You roll a 7 when you don't want to. It's called crapping out. I'm not going to get into any farther than that. And Kristen Quinones, like I said earlier, and Christian was looking into it. He's hasn't fought in 2 fucking years. And he didn't win his last 2 fights out, which were also about a year and a half apart, if I remember correctly. And another women's fight, as much as I hate to say this one's not as much of a contractual obligation because they're both ranked fighters. Now, the downside to this is they're both ranked fighters. And the reason why I say that is I'm not gonna jump on the bandwagon of all women's sports are bad or not as good. We have plenty of great women fighters. The unfortunate part is once you get past that good handful of good women fighters, the pool gets very, very thin, shallow. There is nothing outside of like the top 4 or 5 in each division, and even top 5 is a little bit push. I'll say outside of the top 4 in all of the women's divisions, where it's kind of murky. I mean, unless you're an avid fan, you're not gonna name 10 women in the UFC. And the worst part is those 4 or 5 that you miss are probably ranked. And undeservedly so, I'll say. Unfortunately, as much as the UFC likes to trim the fat, they never like to trim the fat and bring in really good women talent. Because it's out there. They just have to want to go and get it. The unfortunate part is because you don't have, God, this is going to suck to say, the Ronda Rousey bringing in the initial hype for all of the women and having that run like she did. And I mean, you have Nunes coming back, which that's a big draw. As much as I love the Bullet is not the hugest draw because we all know how she fights. It's takedown, crucifix, finish the fight. And look, I'm not mad. If it works, wash, rinse, re-fucking-peat. But we know what's going to happen. We just don't have that same level. It just doesn't pull, unfortunately, because some of these girls, well, they lack some of the excitement in fights, and these two unfortunately do. Eileen Perez, she has the excitement, but only at the end of the fight. Macy Chiasson is just another number to me. She is decent enough to be in the UFC, but not good enough to remember. If I want somebody to watch a women's fight and go, hey, this is something you need to pay attention to because this shows what women's mixed martial arts is capable of, this is not that fucking fight. I'm not saying it's going to be terrible, but I'm not going to say it's going to be good either. The only thing it does is it mixes up the bottom of the bantamweight division for the women. And I say mixes it up because depending on who wins, who loses, it's going to mix up the rankings a little bit. Because I feel that the way the rankings are done, especially in the women's division, it's whoever has the most recent fight gets the highest fucking rankings. Because that seems to be the way it goes. Because, well, they don't have enough stock, is what I'll say. They don't have the same fighter pool like they do in all of the men's divisions, where the fighter pools can be deep. Don't get me wrong, some of the men's divisions are nothing to write home about either, but at least there's something to write home about. So, like I said, I'm not going to shit on it. I'm not going to call it good. I'm not going to call it super bad. It's just something to toss up the division a little bit. And I say toss it up a little bit because it's very little. And then, what the hell is this premier prelim fight? Brian Gandara and Jose Daniel Medina. Who would have thought that this is the premier prelim fight that you're going to see? Like, this is look, I'll say it outright. Move the Kevin Borges fight, Emmanuel Rodriguez. That's better. That could be moved there. I mean, to be honest, the premier prelim should probably be Daniel Zellhuber and King Green. Bobby Green, because, fuck you. That should be the premier prelim. Let the rest of them kind of throw up onto the main card somewhere. That's fine. But it's such a weird pick as far as a premier prelim fight is concerned. Now, the only decent thing that I can think to say about this is somebody's going to more than likely get finished. Which one? I don't know. But my guess is probably going to be Gandara, because, well, Jose Medina is the only one who has a finish in the UFC out of the two of them. But it's middleweights. They're heavy enough to where they can knock somebody out, and they're fast enough to where they can still catch somebody in a fucking submission. So maybe there's a slight chance of it being exciting, but I mean, they're really shitting the bed here, namely in this case, because got somebody from Bolivia fighting somebody from Brazil. This is Mexico City. You want your main event and your premier prelim to focus on having somebody from your local area there. Mexico. It doesn't have to be Mexico City. It can be Guadalajara, somewhere else in there, just so long as it's in Mexico. But, I don't make the cards. I don't think about those things because, God forbid we do that. Most of the main card is meh. I'm not going to say bad because there's some things where I'll say intrigued. Not excited, but intrigued. Emmanuel Rodriguez, for one. What are you going to do after not being able to make it through the other way and they're giving you a freebie here? And they're tossing it up to you because it's at home. That is the only reason right now that I think he is getting a fight. Since you failed to make it through the house, we'll throw you a bone. You're at home. Here you go. Probably paying you 10 and 10 or something like that, or 5 and 5, whatever the lowest base pay is for this. Edgar Chairez, Felipe Boons, another fight, flyweight. It's only exciting because they're flyweights, they're little guys, and they move fast. Other than that, nothing exciting to me about that. The Daniel Zellhuber King Green fight, Bobby Green and Zellhuber. This is Zellhuber's shit or get off the pot moment. I think he's on a 3-fight skid. Bobby Green isn't looking much better. Oh no, excuse me. I got Zellhuber mixed up with somebody else. It's 2-fight skid. But no, Bobby Green is right in that same category where it's a shit or get off the pot moment, you guys. Neither one of you are ranked. Bobby Green stays in the UFC because of his style, because nobody fights with their fucking hands down, except for Bobby Green. And Zellhuber, he's had some flashes of excitement. I'll say that. I won't say greatness, but I'll say excitement. He could be a perennial middle of the road guy, but he's got to get his shit together. He's young enough to where he still can. And you move on to the Co-main, Cheeto. Cheeto has, I know, a 3-fight skid. I love Cheeto Vera. However, I'm also a realist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm not an optimist. I'm a fucking realist. Realistically, if Cheeto loses this fight, they might give him walking papers. Because he hasn't looked good in his last 3 fights. Not good at all. David Martinez coming out of Mexico. He's looked all right so far. I'll say all right, but not great. I mean, yeah, he showed up in his first fight into the UFC, got a blazing KO, and then his next fight out goes to decision, which is all right because that means we know he can go 15 minutes. Not like some other people. If Cheeto doesn't come out of the gates fucking hot, Martinez is going to jump that spot in line, and we're going to see Cheeto outside of the top 10 for the first time in a really long fucking time. As he should be, if that's the case. The main event, absolutely fucking terrible. I like Brandon Moreno, but they literally threw him the slowest pitch softball they can have to just let him style on a motherfucker. This is not what your main event should be. To be honest, that is co-main event material. And I would rather see Cheeto and David Martinez get that fucking nod as the main there. And that's no slight against Brandon, because look, the babyface assassin, you know, I get it. You throw him into the hot seat because you want that fucking arena on fire at the end of the night. He will do that. The unfortunate part is Kavanaugh is the unlucky recipient of the I got fucked up in Mexico and not because I was drinking tequila award. It's not a good look for the UFC. They need to do a better job. And look, if there's last minute pullouts and shit like that, there's plenty of other people that would have taken that fight that are ranked. I'm just saying. But in the UFC's eyes, if it don't make money, it don't make sense, and here we are. Unfortunately, to those of us who are watching this, it don't make sense, but it's making them money.
Yeah, this is one of those cards where I will absolutely shit on the UFC when the UFC fucks up, but to be fair, we try and do this as much as we can around here. Credit where credit is due. The one thing that the UFC has done in this card is make sure that they represent Mexico, because aside from 2 fights on a 15-fight card, there is at least one Mexican in every single match on this card. So what they did do was make sure that they are going to get that representation for being down in Mexico. The problem is that they're doing that while there's a literal fucking countrywide cartel war. All the airports are being ransacked. Everything is fucking crazy in Mexico right now. Like TJ mentioned, it's a level 3 fucking travel warning. The US is advising don't go down there for any fucking reason unless you have absolutely no other fucking choice. Well, these guys are all contractually obligated to go down there now. So obviously we hope nothing happens, but there is still a realistic possibility that something could, because they're in fucking Mexico City. So we'll see how that plays out. That being said, the UFC is not off to a great start with the Paramount Plus era. There have been a few, sparkly glimpses here and there, but as a whole so far, 2026 has not come out swinging very fucking hard for the UFC, and this card does not help that fucking argument very much. Lots of new guys, lots of literal contractual obligation fights, couple of feel-good stories here and there, an ex-stripper who might shake her ass for the fucking camera and get the Mexican crowd all excited, and then a last minute, we got to do something to keep the Mexican guy at the top of the card fight thrown in to try and hobble this fucking Elmer's glue ball of what the fuck together. there's really not a lot to get very excited about on this card. These guys have gone over pretty much everything that is good to talk about here. There's not a lot to be excited about unless you live in Mexico. And if you live in Mexico, your priorities this weekend are more likely your own safety more so than watching the fucking UFC. It's nice to have fights back, but I 100% agree. The UFC either needs to bring back the fucking Facebook prelims so we get, 9, 10 fight cards again, or we need to go back to having, 2, at most 3 events a month, because having an event every weekend and then a 6-week fucking break and then an event every weekend for 6 weeks and then a 3-week break, it's not a good fucking pattern, and they can't even produce that pattern consistently enough to be worth watching 6 weeks in a row with no fucking break and then not be able to want more fights in the off time because there's nothing in a giant fucking vacuum. The UFC is absolutely stepping on their own dick in 2026, in my opinion, and if Paramount Plus really gave a fuck, they would be saying something about it, but they're not, because everybody would rather pay $15 a month than $90 every fucking quote unquote numbered event. So this is one of those, now we are absolutely getting what we are paying for. The problem is, up until now, we've spent 30 years paying 20 times too fucking much for what we got in an increasingly diminishing return product. Now we're at the point where they don't have to give us good product anymore because the product is sold to us so cheaply. Now, you get what you pay for. You're not paying $100 a month for pay-per-views anymore. Why are you complaining about shitty fights? The reason is because we're getting 50 shitty fights a month now. Whereas back in the old school days, you would absolutely never, I'm not trying to say every card for the UFC used to be fucking bangers. That's farthest thing from what I'm fucking saying here. There's plenty of shit fights on any fucking card you go back and look into history. But what I'm saying is overall, the quality of the events has gone down consistently, and this year has not done anything to help that argument. This card as a whole is not great. Is it nice to have fights on a weekend where there could be nothing? Absolutely. Is it interesting that the UFC is going to Mexico when everyone else literally is trying to get the fuck out of Mexico? Absolutely. Is this the card I'm going to use to try and bring a newbie into getting MMA fandom started? Fuck no. I'm glad we got fights. I'm not glad that they're these.
You boys helped spell it out pretty good. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much, sir. Always appreciated. Now, that will bring us to the point here where if you've ever been watching combat sports and you see something happen and immediately, as soon as you see it, you're like, wait, what the fuck was that? What did that person just fucking do? How the fuck did that even work? You're not alone. Even those of us who've been watching this for a long time sometimes have those moments. Luckily for you, though, we've had an official graduation on the show. So this is kind of a bittersweet moment because on one hand, we unfortunately have to take our favorite segment of the show, Casual Corner, and once again put it back to rest because our show Casual has now been watching fights with us long enough and has now watched enough fights of his own, hashtag justice for Jose. We can't really use his opinion as a casual anymore because he knows too goddamn much. We've kept him around too long and he just isn't casual enough to be our casual anymore. The good news about that, though, is that now we have got ourselves a brand new segment we are calling The Next Move with our very own Flintlock. So, Flintlock, are you ready to break it down for us over there?
Yeah. Well, today's going to be a little bit of a lighter mood. A little bit. I will. The other thing I really touch on from the last segment is if Sean Strickland thinks that all women's sports and including, combat sports is boring to watch and this that. Apparently, the man's never watched an Invicta card, but they pay their fighters well enough that they don't have to fight multiple times a year. I'm just saying.
There's that.
So I've noticed over the past few years, watching fights with you guys and breaking stuff down, asking questions. Why does this work? What does that do? Why does his bone pop out like that? You know, you kind of notice some things. And one glaring, obvious thing that I've noticed is that I've only seen one move that has a 100% win rate. 100%. You can't say that about a rear naked choke. You can't say that about any type of lock. You can't say that about anything.
I think it's
Except
14 and
for
0 at this point now. 13 or
Yeah.
14 and 0.
Yeah. The only move you can say that about is the fucking double punch. Who thought that, okay, you're in a combat sport. You're going to get hit in the face anyways. Why not throw both hands? I swear, I've
agree.
watched everybody from the people that rigged the fights all the way, across the big body of water over there to everybody down in, LFA, BKFC, anything you throw a punch in. I've seen double punches and they win every single time.
Every fucking fight. We saw one 2 weeks
Why?
ago.
Yes, and now it's in the UFC. Finally, I kind of feel validated. But why? Why? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not have, Chama throw a double punch?
Well, and to be fair, we've seen it from almost every position now. We've seen it from standing, thrown sideways. We've seen it from laying on the ground, throwing it behind you. We've seen it from on the ground, throwing it in front of you. Like, we've literally seen people throw a double punch in almost every organization from almost every position. And every single time, literally, because we make a point to talk about it, every single fucking time someone has thrown a double punch and it lands, they win the fucking fight without fail for like 2 years now.
Every single time. And it doesn't. Now, does it make sense? Maybe not. Maybe not. Should the person that have won, should they have won? Maybe not as well. But the fact of the matter is that the double punch has never lost. So I'm just saying, if you want a gold belt with some rubies in it, and Dana to pump your bank account full of, zeros with big numbers in front of it, might want to learn a double punch.
I agree. I agree very much. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. We will wrong one. We will bring Flintlock back next week for our UFC 326 talk as well. But that being said, that will bring us to the only segment in the show that does require its own individual disclaimer. So if you will. Tapology.com in no way, shape, or form supports, sponsors, or endorses the I'm No Joe podcast. Yet. That being said, they do give you the option to go onto their site, make a free account, and make fantasy-style MMA picks like we do here on the show. They even let you make groups there. So we did. We made one called I'm No Bookie, all one word, or Group 965. However you need to find it. The group is open to the public. You are welcome and encouraged. Make yourself an account, join the group, and then let us know who you are so we can hold your picks accountable with our picks in a segment that we call Tapology with TJ.
All right. Listen here, you cheap bastards. Tapology is fucking free. I know you're cheap, because otherwise we would have one gigantic fucking paycheck coming to get me a new computer, maybe a new microphone, maybe even a new camera that will blur my face. But you guys obviously don't want that in your lives. So you're not a member of the Patreon. Yet. Now, that being said, Tapology is absolutely free. Go make a goddamn account, come over and join us. But like I warned you guys a couple of weeks ago, you're too late to get in on the Spring Grand Prix. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. Now, with all that being said, let's get right into it. From last week, which would have been the Strickland Hernandez. I'm not even going to talk about that card. I want to, but I'm not going to because that's not the point of this. let's just say there was a fight for the bottom spot this week, and it was a three-way fucking duke it out situation. Unfortunately, somebody had to trip over their dick first, and it just so happened to be me, or he just happened to be that guy. Now, the caveat to that being said, everybody in the group was well above the 500 mark in their picks. So, again, proving that we kind of have an idea what the fuck we're talking about when we talk about these things. Christian takes home the top spot, coming in hot with 10 of fucking 14. You know, I felt like he was taking a hiatus from putting in good picks for a while because some of them were quite fucking absolute trash for a minute. Thought he fell off, but apparently he was just saving it so he could have bragging rights when it came around time for the whole Grand Prix situation. Now, there is a slight little notation in here I need to make. Vindog took the second spot with 10 of 14 correct. Now, I don't know if you guys have been around long enough, but a while ago, there may or may not have been some cheating on some homework situation. I think they may be at it again and be like, here, you just change this answer, so that way we're all good. And that way nobody suspects this thing. I don't suspect it right now, but I'm saying if this continues to happen throughout the course of this Grand Prix, there may or may not be allegations at a later point, allegedly. Now, all of that being said, way to go, Christian. You actually did fucking fantastic. 615 points at that 10 to 14. Pat on your back, attaboy. Tell Vinny he did good too. Tell him to stop looking at your paper though. Now, on to this week's damn, I lost my train of thought because I was gonna have another zinger there. On to this week's odds for the UFC Mexico City on February 28th. We're going to go completely against the grain here, and I'm going to use a one that I never use, which is going to be, I'm going to use Bet Rivers. So, with this being said, let's get right into it. There are quite a few fights that have some pretty wide odds. Quite a few. So we'll hit those all up, and then of course I'll do the co-main and main. We're gonna start with the slightly wide odds, and then go from there. When I say slightly, this is what I mean. Slightly wide. Damian Penis and Wes Schultz, the opening fight on the card. Our Fabio Andre Arlovsky Lorenzo Lamas test tube baby is coming in as a plus 205 underdog. Whereas Damian is coming in as a minus 265 favorite. This is our slightly wide odds for everybody. Slightly wide odds. They only get wider from here. Okay. Now, we're gonna jump up to the main card here. Edgar Chaez and Felipe Buns. I'm probably murdering his fucking name, and I don't care. Felipe coming in as a plus 265 underdog. Edgar, a minus 345 favorite. They're getting wider. There's a little thing going on here, and the next one's going to be even wider. Manuel Rodriguez and Kevin Borges. Borges coming in as a plus 340 underdog. Manuel Rodriguez, a minus 455 favorite. Getting wider, huh? Weird how that's working. Let's go on to just a wee skosh wider, why don't we? Daniel Zellhuber and Bobby King Green. Yes. Bobby King Green coming in as a plus 360 underdog. Daniel Zellhuber, a minus 500 favorite. I told you these are getting a little wild and out of hand here. Now, you think that's wide? Oh, no. Still on the main card. Angel Pacheco and Santiago Luna. Pacheco coming in as a plus 425 underdog. Santiago Luna, a minus 590 favorite.
Bruh.
That's right, you heard me right. 590 favorite, almost 600. Now, not to be outdone, there are 2 fights on this card that have actually identical odds according to Bet River. And they are the widest odds. No, not quite. We're gonna hang on. One more to go into. Christian Quinones and Chris Moutinho. As we said earlier, we all love that whole underdog story, getting a second chance, but this is where the odds are proving us right, knowing that it's not going to be a good outturn. Moutinho coming in as a plus 475 underdog. Christian Quinones, a minus 670 favorite.
Bruh.
Now, here's the wild thing. That's not the widest odds on the card. There's 2 fights that are almost identical in their, well, according to Bet River, they're identical, but other places they may vary a little bit. And that's going to be Eric Silva and Francis Marshall, and Jose Medina and Ryan Gondra. Both of these coming in prospectively at a plus 525 underdog and a 770 favorite. In the Eric Silva fight, Eric is coming in as a plus 525 underdog, Francis being the minus 770 favorite. Jose Medina and Ryan Gondra coming in as the minus 770 favorite. Jose Medina, the plus 525 underdog. Those 2 fights are the widest odds on the card. Like I said, normally these are all pretty coin flippy. These are some of the widest odds we've seen on a card in a long time. Like generally the UFC is pretty good about keeping the odds fairly close. Now, no, all of these are subject to change, and depending on where you're looking, those odds are going to vary from place to place. So, let's get right into covering this co-main and main. Co-main, David Martinez, Marlon Chito Vera. As I said it earlier, Chito coming in as a plus 215 underdog, David Martinez a minus 278 favorite. Now, I said it earlier, unfortunately, Chito's not been showing up, and this is kind of his shit or get off the pot moment. And where we've seen David Martinez making some really good headway, it's no wonder they have him as a favorite. It's not a huge favorite, but it's enough to where you go, okay, it's noticeable. Now, here is the craziest odds in the fucking world to me being on the main event. Brandon Moreno, Lanier Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh coming in as only a plus 180 underdog to a minus 230 favorite in Brandon Moreno. I don't think somebody did their fucking homework when they were setting the odds on that. Number one, you have Brandon at home. He does not lose at home. He lights that city a fucking blaze. And Kavanaugh has not looked great being in the UFC so far. I'm just saying somebody didn't do their homework there. Feel free to bet the fucking house on Moreno. You're not going to win a lot, but you're going to fucking win. Because I'm pretty sure those odds are wrong. And just taking a quick peek across the board, they're all pretty close to that. Just as an example, FanDuel and I was gonna call them Little Caesars, but Caesars and FanDuel have fucking them at a 175 and a 172 perspective underdog for Kavanaugh, and Moreno is a minus 210 and minus 225 favorite. So they're not far off, but I just feel like every one of those bookies is fucking wrong. But I mean, to be fair, Brandon Moreno has had a tough go of it lately, so I can understand why they might be seeing the babyface assassin as falling off. Because I mean, his last win was against Davidson Figueiredo in 2023. He's on like a 4 or 5 fight skid. Oh, take that all with a grain of salt, but I still think Moreno is by far the better fighter in this situation. The babyface assassin, maybe they're thinking he's spending too much time on the desk. Think about how much better this card would have been for the Mexicans in Mexico there, fucking having Brandon on the desk live here. What would be even better is if he was live before his fight and then says, "Okay, I gotta go get ready for my fight." Dude, that'd be next level, but we know that's not gonna happen because the UFC don't play like that. But that's what I got for you this week. We'll see y'all next week. And yes, for those of you who were paying attention, I didn't give you the goddamn current standings for the Spring Grand Prix because I pretty much fucking covered them when I said who was first, last, and in between. And that's all that matters at this point. Next week we'll start covering it, so long as the way that this all played out is different. But yeah, go join us. It's free. If you don't want to be labeled the cheap bitch, go down below. Hit us with $1 a month. That's cheap. You can be a cheap bitch and I won't call you a cheap bitch so long as you go and join the Patreon. It's right down below. Low as $1 a month. $1. Dude, that's the change you used to grab from in between the seats trying to buy a pack of cigarettes in the 90s. Come on now. You can do it.
Thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. Yeah, that was the first of our event here. We've got a couple more. This one runs till UFC 327, I believe, in Miami, and then there will usually be a couple weeks off, and then we will start the Summer Grand Prix, so long as the UFC releases their schedule in time for us to do that, which is why this one was so delayed. But that being said, Tapology is free. Joining the group is free. Joining the tournament is free. Watching the show is free. Listening to the show is free. If you enjoy free, this is a good place for you. Pretty much every Thursday night, there are fights to talk about around 9 p.m.-ish Central Standard Time. YouTube.com/@I'mNoJoe and dual streamed to twitch.tv/I'mNoJoe. So you can watch either place you like. We try and do a show every weekend where there are fights to talk about here. If you miss us live, don't worry. The replays get left up live on both platforms as long as they are allowed to stay live. If you missed us on purpose, I also understand that because we too own mirrors. And for that exact reason, the week after we go live, we put the all audio version of the podcast out on anchor.fm/I'mNoJoe. You could pick it up to your podcast consumption platform of choice. It's out on Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever you use to listen, it's there and it's for free there as well. If you like what we get up to, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, make sure your notifications are turned on, maybe tell a friend. It's the best way to help us grow the show. If you really like what we get up to around here, patreon.com/I'mNoJoe is the best way to show that. Like TJ mentioned, for as little as $1 a month, as much as you are comfortable giving, every penny helps us do what we do around here. And in exchange for patronage at any level, first and foremost, we put your name on the end of every broadcast on this channel so that everyone can see how fucking awesome you are for helping us out. But more than that, for helping at any level, you get unrestricted access to all the behind the scenes, the unaired and the unairable things, all the shit that got us kicked off of OnlyFans as a podcast, that's over on the Patreon. Exclusive content just for supporters, that's over on Patreon. Nice shows that are only live and then the supporters, those are over there as well. So if you like what we get up to around here, there is plenty extra for your buck to make it worth going over to join the Patreon. The other side of that coin, if you don't like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast that you didn't enjoy? Give it a thumbs down and go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That being said, when we wrap up the show around here, Thursday nights, that is not the end of the fun because tomorrow and pretty much every Friday, this gentleman and his other half drop their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over there on Spreaker.com. Links down to the podcast and their social media, as well as their channel over on the I'm No Joe Discord server, are all down in the description, whether you are watching or listening to this. Go click on it and tell them how awesome they're fucking doing.
Appreciate you, brother. And you can't forget TJ himself. You got to show the brother TJ some fucking love too. He's going to be doing some special shit coming up. Bike fundraiser, trying to raise some funds to give some fucking bikes to kids in need. You got to make sure you tune into that. Brother's coming out of retirement to do a stream for some charity. Pop in, show some love when that goes down. Everything should be down in the description for everything else that Brother TJ does. Make sure you go show him some love and fucking tune in. If you can, no demands here. When and where you can, but help a good cause out,
Oh, yeah, thanks, sir. Also, first time letting everybody know that yes, I will be out of retirement for a weekend. And by a weekend, I mean a Saturday. And by a Saturday, I mean March 7th. That specific Saturday. We will be doing a live fundraiser on Fresh O3's YouTube channel. Tune in. All of the proceeds go to buy bikes for kids for Easter, specifically helping underprivileged families and kids that need it. We've already got a list of at least a dozen kids that specifically need bikes. The other ones will find homes, but I know I've got 3 or 4 that are in the high school that need them. I know I've got a bunch in the middle schools and grade schools that could use them. So whatever we don't raise, no, will come out of my own pocket because this is something I'm very passionate about. So I hate to toot my own horn here, but we take care of kids because kids are way more important than us as an adult. So there you go. We're out of retirement temporarily. And I say temporarily because there will also be another announcement during that show that everybody will get to see then. But on that note, up until that point, you ain't gonna have shit to do on Wednesdays. You know what you do at that time on Wednesdays? You go down below, Linktree/The Meter Does Many Things, or Linktree/I'm No Joe, to find each and every one of the many things that the meter does do. That will cover all of that time between now and Saturday, March 7th, for you to find some things to do. And as soon as you're done on Saturday, March 6th and March 7th rolls around, feel free to come over and pop over and hang out, sling a little money for kids, and then head right back to all of the many things that the meter does do once we're done over there. It's well worth your time. And there's constantly new shit coming out. The amount of drops that comes out over there will keep you gainfully entertained as well as well informed.
Thank you very much, sir. Always appreciated. Yes, first and foremost, if you are listening to this in the audio version, you still have time because our live stream is in just a couple of days. The link will be in the description, both audio and video. If you're watching this live, mark next weekend on your fucking calendars. I don't give a shit if you like us. I don't give a shit if you like MMA because this is not about us and this is not about fighting. We do this every fucking year because kids deserve a fucking hand up when they don't have one. We make sure at least a couple of underprivileged kids get a fucking hand that they wouldn't have otherwise. And we do that with the help from you wonderful people. So get your hand out of your ass, put it in your pocket, grab your fucking wallet, and then get your marker and write on the calendar. Saturday, March 7th. We're raising money to get kids in needs some fucking April bikes so they can have a good Easter as well. Make sure you're fucking ready for it because we will be. We'll be there to see you. That being said, any other time, if you happen to enjoy any of the type of shenaniganry mentioned here, definitely hit that link below. If you enjoy combat sports, hit the other link below. Either way, we have got plenty to entertain you in the upcoming and the backlog library, so make sure you stick around. That being said, though, that is all we have got for this particular episode. So until next time, boys and girls, remember, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times.